We're back! Yes, it's here, season 2 of Chronic Briefs. And I know a ton of you have been asking, when is the show coming back? And the answer is now, right now. Yeah, now is now. Yeah, it's back now. In this crazy year of so much, it's good to know that we'll be here at least to help you end it. Yeah, and we've got some fun new things planned for season 2 that we didn't do in season 1. Before we get into it though, I know, as always, gotta ask, please share, like, subscribe, comment, yodel, whatever to help us get our message out. Now, before we jump in, people have been wondering, what have I been doing for the past few months? And I gotta say, not that much. Pretty much the same old. Nothing really interesting. You know, there was that Middle East peace thing that I'm sure you heard about that I brokered. And, the guest spot that you heard that I did on The Mandalorian. Yeah, I played a tree. That thing where I won that $1 million in a high-stakes poker game and then lost it all investing in a scheme to try to bring back saber-toothed tigers. Yeah, you know, I'm sure you heard. Same old. Same thing everybody's been doing in quarantine, you know? Nothing. Listen, if I'm being honest, I pretty much just played video games and watched cartoons while recuperating from season 1. Believe it or not, keeping up a release schedule of every 10 days isn't as carefree as you might think. Yeah, it's careful. It's careful-ish. Carefulicious. That sounds right. Now, in case you haven't kept up, we are adding to our repertoire this season with another type of episode. Yeah, and I guess I can spill the beans now that the season has officially started. We're going to be having guests. Yes, we're going to actually talk to some of the people in our world who live with all types of chronic illnesses. But, and this is a big but, not like my butt, but a big but, you know how we do it here. We are not going to talk about the illness and all the bad stuff and the doom and gloom. No, our interviews are going to be focused on the lighter side of chronic illness, as if that's a real thing. Yeah. We're going to talk more about the goofy stuff that has come from people having illness and the absurdity and hilarity of living with disease. Like, for instance, a blind person who found themselves in a threesome. Yeah, talk about feeling it out. Yeah. Oh, no, that doesn't go there. Yeah, that's the kind of respectable, clean fun we're going to have here in season 2. I bet you're excited. Anyway, enough about what's to come. We still have an episode to do, and we're going to do one that people have been requesting, but we just couldn't fit into the season 1 timetable, and that is working with disability and chronic illness. Now, I say working when talking about someone chronically ill and disabled, and you probably immediately say, disabled people work? Yes, we do, thank you. I know the common perception. We just sit back at home on our gold-plated recliners waiting for that big fat hunk of government cheese to come in so we could get our next helping of beluga caviar and ginger spices flown in directly from the Orient. Yeah, I know. That's what people think, but that's so far from how it really is. First of all, let's just clear the air. The reason many of us sign up for disability isn't for the outrageous fortune we'll make collecting checks from Uncle Sam. No, it's for the insurance, the Medicare. It's our lifeline. The checks we get from the government aren't anywhere near enough to buy caviar. Fish eggs? You kidding me? They're barely enough to buy eggs from the dollar store. Yeah, I say eggs because I'm not even sure they come from a chicken. A badger, maybe? Does a badger lay eggs? I don't know. Anyway, point is, nobody's rolling in fat stacks off a government check. And because of that, most of us have to find some sort of supplementary employment. That ends up meaning one of two things for anyone chronically ill and disabled. Trying to shoehorn ourselves into a regular office environment, or taking what part-time work we can find from home. Now, working in an office, outside the house, I know, it's much less common in the age of COVID, but it's starting to return. And that means those who are chronically ill and disabled will eventually no longer be able to enjoy the benefits of solely telecommuting. So, what's it like to work in an office when you are chronically ill? Well, it's kind of like being the murderer in the game of Clue. Or for those of you who play video games, being the traitor in Among Us. Yeah, you're always trying your best to play down your illness and hide who you really are because you're terrified that your boss or someone else is going to find out just how sick you really are. Yeah, it could be really stressful, right? And as we've discussed before, stress can be a trigger for illness, which causes more stress, which causes more illness, which causes more stress, before you know it, you're dead. Oh, but it doesn't help the situation, okay? Look, in a perfect world, employers would make accommodations for people who are disabled and chronically ill and would be able to provide a workspace where the limitations of illness aren't a strike on the record of the employee. That's true. But if it was a perfect world, I'd be married to Kristen Bell. And we'd have twins, Ashley and Aiden, and we'd dress in white. And I would get ice cream, and then I would drop it on her lap, and then she'd say, "Oh, let it go." And then we'd laugh, and we'd laugh. Oh my God, it'd be perfect. Perfect. It's what some other fancy dude would want probably in a perfect world. But not me. I like shooting guns and wearing boots, and that's it. Anyway, the point is, it isn't a perfect world, and employers do take advantage of people who are chronically ill and disabled. This usually ends where the disabled person becomes what I like to call the office toilet. Why? Because it's where all the crap ends up. And it's made clear that you better not clog things up because we're doing you a favor by giving you an office by the bathroom in the first place. Now, no employer is stupid enough. Well, never say never. But most of the time, employees are smart enough to make sure there's enough legitimate non-illness related reasons to fire you if necessary so that they avoid the embarrassment and cost of a lawsuit. These reasons, they can be things like a poor performance review, or causes a disruptive workplace, or microwaves fish every Tuesday and the whole office smells like rancid herring for the rest of the week. Of course, those are just nebulous, unspecific reasons, except for that last one, which, honestly, I'd probably fire your ass too. Just roll you and your stinky fish right on out of the office. But in the end, you know. You just know. Okay? It happened to me. When I was younger, I worked at a fast food place. Now, I don't want to say which one, obviously for legal reasons, but it rhymes with Schmick-Schmonald's. I worked there for 2 years, and I took a lot of sick days. Now, I won't lie, but it was my first real full-time job, and it took more of a toll on my body than I realized, and I had to call in sick. Probably more than the typical employee, but nothing crazy, not like 4 times a week or anything. No. Now, I knew my manager didn't like it, but he knew I was chronically ill. So he waited until I had to take a legitimate week off to go away with my family because back then I couldn't get out of it, family vacations, you know how it is. Anyway, when I came back, lo and behold, on my paycheck was written, "Collect uniform terminated." Yes, I got fired via Scribble. Isn't that fun? When I asked why, I was told because I didn't give enough notice for my week off, but we both knew the real reason. Now that I'm older, I realize I should have made a much bigger McDeal about it and definitely should have supersized my objections. Yeah, it's just too bad you'll never know what restaurant chain I'm talking about. Now, the other option I spoke about is to work from home. Like I said before, the silver lining is that COVID has made working from home not abnormal, and that's been a godsend for people who are chronically ill and disabled. But things will eventually go back to normal, or back to the way they were before. And for those who need to work at home, will be left, again, with the phone-related jobs nobody else wants to do. What jobs do I mean, you ask? Let's see. When I looked into it, I was offered several prestigious positions. First, a Walmart customer complaints phone representative. Then, a technical support service rep for a company that made GPS devices. And finally, the creme de la creme of home phone-related jobs, a cold caller for home warranty service. Yes, I can feel your jealousy through the screen. You want to know how it is I got offered these incredibly lucrative and luxurious positions in the customer service industry? Well, I'm sorry to say it's yet another amazing benefit of being chronically ill and disabled. Yes, we do get the royal treatment. And by royal, of course, I mean royally f***ed. Yeah, when it comes to work-at-home jobs, we get the bottom of the barrel. But for most, we take whatever we can get because we need to make ends meet. Okay? Now, some of the words people use to describe those who are chronically ill and on disability are lazy, entitled, a burden, devastatingly handsome. The list goes on and on. But really, most of us are just trying to cobble together a life worth living. Those who do work outside their homes are constantly living in fear of being fired or let go because of their illness, legally or not. And those who work from home have to take the jobs that, frankly, let's be honest, most other people don't want. Right? And I didn't even mention, sometimes they force you to work crazy hours, like 6 p.m. to 3 a.m. I mean, yeah, can you imagine the person who calls the Walmart complaint line at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday night? Yeah, Yeah. It's the kind of person who probably also asks if they can smell your hair. Yeah. Can I smell your hair? No, Mungo, you can't smell my hair. I told you to stop asking. Look, no matter where you work when you're chronically ill and disabled, there aren't many options, okay? But anyway, we'll discuss it further in another video because it's official. The first episode of season 2 is in the books. Yes! And as always, remember, if you liked the video, if you laughed, if you learned something, if you're still breathing, then please, please, please like us, share us, subscribe, help us get our message out. And for the first time this season, I get to say, remember, be kind, rewind, and keep on keeping on. We'll talk soon. What? You like to smell hair? You're fired.